Welcome back. This is the second lecture for Unit 4 in English 2. In the first lecture, we went over some of the language and grammar that you will be using. We looked at events that were happening in the past at a point in time. We also looked at many conjunctions, how sentences are joined together. Okay. So we looked at that. We're going to use some of that language now in the second hour. So we're going to start on page 30, and we're going to start with a fairly easy activity. We're going to be talking about traveling to many different parts of the world. Okay. So as it says here, what you're going to do is talk to your partner about two people's vacations. Okay. In fact, it's 4 people. We're going to be talking about Beverly, Stuart, Tony, and Hannah. Okay. So I guess you're going to tell your partner about 2 people, and your partner is going to tell you about 2 people. Now, of course, if you don't have a partner, you're not going to be able to tell anyone except yourself. So you're going to maybe tell yourself about 4 people's vacations. Okay? Anyway, the point is you're going to construct some sentences about people in places. Okay? So an example they give here at the top: Rick went to London. He saw Big Ben and rode the London Eye, but he didn't take a cruise on the Thames. Okay. So here we're talking about a person, Rick, and a place, London. Okay. So Rick went to London. He visited London. Now we talk about 3 activities: seeing Big Ben, riding the London Eye, and taking a cruise on the Thames. We talk about these 3 activities. Rick did 2 of them. He did this activity and this activity. Okay? But he didn't do this activity. All right. So we're going to talk about the other 4 people in much the same way. Okay? So in each of these illustrations, you're given a place. Okay, Tokyo, a person, which we can see here, Beverly, and we can see Beverly doing 2 things and apparently not doing something. She's doing it, but she's not doing it. Okay. And the same with Stuart, same with Tony, and the same with Hannah. Okay. All right, so take the time with your partner or alone, talk about the things these people did or did not do in these cities. Okay. All right, I'll see you back here to review. Okay, so let's start with Beverly. Okay, obviously by the arrow, she went to Tokyo. Okay, we have 2 things that she did. You know that because of the circle. But 1 thing that she did not do, we know from the X. Okay? So using this prompt as a guide, we can talk about Beverly. So Beverly went to Tokyo. She went shopping and took a city tour, but she didn't visit Disneyland. Okay. All right, so in the picture you can see her shopping. You can see her on a city tour, and a picture of her not visiting Disneyland. Okay. So again, Beverly went to Tokyo, she went shopping and took a tour, but she didn't visit Disneyland. Okay. What about Stuart? Stuart went to New York. He saw the Statue of Liberty and went to Times Square, but he didn't walk in Central Park. Okay. So you see when we're talking about Rick or Beverly or Stuart, okay, So we're talking about events in the past. Okay? They were talking about their vacations that they went on. So Rick went to, he's not going to London. It's not like he is going to go to London or that he goes to London regularly. He went there. And Beverly went to Tokyo. Stuart went to New York. So when we're using the past tense for positive statements, okay, we can just simply change the verb. So go becomes went, take becomes took, see becomes saw, go becomes went again. But we use a negative sentence, okay, so he didn't take a cruise on the Thames, she didn't visit, okay, so we precede that by he did not visit, sorry, she did not visit, and he did not walk. So he didn't walk in Central Park. Okay? So I didn't walk, you didn't walk, they didn't walk. So we're preceding it by the phrase didn't. Okay? So we're talking about a past event. Okay, so notice that structure here. Subject, the auxiliary verb, the negative, and then finally the verb that you're using. So it doesn't have to change to a past tense form like saw or rode or went or took. Okay, these irregular verbs. All right, so the bottom one should be easy. So the bottom two should be easy. So the third picture. So Tony went to Istanbul. He shopped in the Grand Bazaar and saw the Blue Mosque. But he didn't go to a museum. So try that again. Tony went to Istanbul. He went to the Grand Bazaar. He went to the Blue Mosque, but he didn't go to a museum. Okay, so the past tense of go is went. But if it's negative, did not go. Okay. Hannah went to Delhi. She rode a tuk-tuk and ate curry. Okay. But she didn't see the Red Fort. Okay. So again, something Tony did contrasted with something he didn't do. He went to the Grand Bazaar, he saw the Blue Mosque, but he didn't go to a museum. Hannah rode a tuk-tuk. She ate curry, but she did not see the Red Fort. Okay. So just that's just kind of a warm-up to contrast two things you did or did not do, did and did not do. Also to join things that have a similarity, okay, so that you mentioning two things that you did in the same clause. Okay, good. So it's a bit of speaking practice. Now we're going to get to some grammar and writing. All right, so this is page 31 at the top. We're going to do this matching activity. Okay, so before, as we saw on page 29, we were showing how to join two sentences. Okay. What you're going to do is you're going to match these different sentences with each other. Okay, so there's one sentence here with a letter over here. Okay, now some of these are pretty obvious, some might be a bit tricky. So number one is done for you. I went to the zoo. I saw some animals. Okay, so these two are a match. Okay. And when you've matched them, okay, you can just simply write the number in these spaces. But you're also thinking about how they relate. Okay, so it's kind of, you're going to match these, but you're also thinking of a resulting sentence. Okay. So I went to the zoo. I saw some animals. Okay, so how am I going to join that? Am I going to use the word and, but, so, or because? Okay. All right. So we're going to begin. I went to the zoo and I saw some animals. Sounds good. Went to the zoo, but I saw some animals. Okay. Seeing animals and going to the zoo do not contrast. They're kind of related. So also works. I went to the zoo, so I saw some animals, but it doesn't seem to be a resulting action here. I think most people want to see animals and then go to the zoo. I wanted to see some animals, so I went to the zoo. That sounds like a resulting action. First I wanted something, then so. So I think and is the better answer. Okay? Because doesn't work. Because clause would be here. It could almost work here, but it doesn't. The resulting sentence is at the bottom. I went to the zoo and saw some animals. So you're going to match. You're going to match these sentences with these sentences here, thinking of how they relate. Do they join together? Are they contrasting? Are they showing reason with each other? Okay. But you can match those on your own. Okay. And when you're finished, we'll come back here and review. Good. 다연결해서. Great. So we're going to go to view this on the practice. Should be easy enough. Okay. So the first one is done for us. I went to the zoo. I saw some animals. Okay. What's the next one? Let me jump around here. Number 7, they went to Paris. They went to Madrid too. See number 8 here. You didn't wear sunscreen. Okay, so no sunblock, no SPF. Okay, so you didn't put that on. What's related? Sunburn. Sunburn, sunscreen. Or not wear sunscreen, sunburn. I see a relation there. Okay. Number 4 and letter B seem to match. We're both talking about meeting. I called you. He was hot. She brought some juice. I don't know who they are. I called you. You didn't answer your phone. So call and phone. I think that's a match right there. Okay. Thirsty. Okay. So she wants to quench the thirst. She bought some juice. Okay. So thirsty. Right. So she wanted to drink something. He opened the window. He was hot. Okay, that's probably a relationship there. Right, so they took a break and they were tired. Okay. So you can probably see how these relate. How did I do? Okay, perfect score. Okay. Now, as you see them relate, you can almost envision the conjunctions. You didn't wear sunscreen. You got a sunburn. Okay, so I think the conjunction there would be so. You didn't wear sunscreen, so the result, you got a sunburn. Okay. If you switch these clauses around, you got a sunburn because you didn't wear sunscreen. Okay. So again, there's a cause and effect relationship depending on how they are constructed. Okay. So that's the answer for the matching activity. Okay. Now take the time and you want to write these sentences below here. Okay. So you're going to take these clauses that you joined, you're going to write them down, and then you're going to choose a conjunction. And you're given 4 choices: and, but, so, and because. And a hint, you can use the conjunctions twice. Okay. So if you find 2 examples of sentences that must be joined with because, okay, then you're done with because. Now find 2 sentences that join with but, so, and. Okay. So if it gets a bit difficult, maybe do the easy ones first. Okay, I'll give you some time to write those sentences down, and then we can continue. Okay, So we're reviewing the answers here. We've already matched them up, and I've written out the answers. And we're going to write these in. Okay. Number 2, they took a break. They were tired. Okay. I'm going to throw in the word because. And I'm going to check this one out first. Good. Okay. They took a break because they were tired. So the cause, they were tired. The effect, they took a break. Okay. So one action or one, so one action caused the other. Number 3, I called you, you didn't answer the phone. Okay. So I'm going to put the contraction but in here. Okay. So I called you, I wanted to talk to you, but you did not take the phone call. Okay. I met David, I didn't meet Amanda. So that's a classic contrast right there. So I think that's also but. Let's see. So we got one and one because. He opened the window, he was hot. That's another because. So it sounds to me, both because is done. So we only have 3 conjunctions left. She was thirsty, she bought some juice. Okay, so that sounds like a result for sure. So I'm going to use it so. Okay, so much in the same way, talking about cause and effect, we could put because at the beginning of the sentence. Because she was thirsty, she bought some juice. Okay, so we're looking at again a cause and effect relationship. But she was thirsty, therefore she thought buying some juice would be a good idea. So she was thirsty, so she bought some juice, resulting action. They went to Paris. They went to Madrid too. Okay, so we're talking about 2, maybe an additional place they went to. So they went to Paris and Madrid. That sounds like a better sentence, but we're just joining the 2 sentences now. The final one, you didn't wear sunscreen, you got a sunburn. Okay, so obviously the answer is so. It's the only one remaining. And we could see the resulting action. Okay, so they had a choice, wear sunscreen, don't wear sunscreen. Okay, this person chose not to wear sunscreen. The result, sunburn. Okay, it's a very fair skin. Let's see how many of these are correct. No, that's good. Okay, looks like I got a lot of these wrong. Let's check the answers. Let's start with number 5 here. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so let's redo this one. And let's redo this one. Okay, so we're a bit picky here about punctuation and spaces. The rule of punctuation is you can use a comma if after the conjunction you have a verb, subject, and a verb. Okay, it's optional. It's not really a very specific, very strict rule. But anyway, so your answers have to totally match up. As you saw with this one, I had a space here, So you have too many spaces, you might get some of these wrong. Let's try these ones out here. So I called you. Same with but, it's a conjunction, so the subject and a verb afterwards. The rule is you put a comma right there. But again, it's not very a strict rule. This sounds a bit strange to put it after and, but again, there's a subject and a verb afterwards. So let's see what the answer is. I called you, but you didn't answer. You didn't answer your phone. Okay. Okay, so I just typed that down. Okay. So I made a few mistakes there. One was copying out the words incorrectly, but also they're very strict on punctuation. So you can see where those commas come in, just before a conjunction, but followed by a subject and a verb. Okay. So often if there's no subject, they just have the conjunction and then a verb, you will not see the comma right there. Okay. So a little punctuation lesson with your grammar, and maybe one for me as well. Okay. All right, let's continue on. We're going to do some writing down at the bottom of the page. So in self-practice 2, we're going to write about different people. Number 1 is done for you. Okay. It says Louise was working. When was she working? Okay, so we're writing about what people were doing yesterday afternoon. Okay. So I don't know if Louise was working all afternoon, from noon until 6 p.m., but I guess that's basically what she was doing at that time. Okay. So in all of these examples, we're talking about individuals or pairs of people and activities that were happening at a point in time. So someone asks you, what were you doing last night at 8 p.m.? Okay. Sounds like a policeman. So what were you doing yesterday at 8 p.m.? Okay. I was visiting my friend. I was sleeping. Okay. So these might be activities you were doing at that point in time. You were in the middle of doing. So we saw that earlier with the listening activity. Okay. So we saw here that Lily went to the mall. She saw Lisa and Trevor. What were they doing? They were having lunch. Okay, so they started lunch. Lily saw them. Later, they finished lunch. Okay. So in these activities on page 31, we're going to do use much the same grammar to talk about these people. Okay. So talk about what these people were doing yesterday afternoon. You can write the sentences here. Okay. So they give you a verb, they give you a subject, and you just have to provide the correct tense. Okay. I'll see you in a few minutes after you finish. Okay, so number 2, talk about Jill and Billy, or Billy and Jill. What were they doing yesterday? So what were they doing yesterday afternoon? Jill and Billy were playing outside. So Jill and Billy were playing outside. Okay. That's number 2. Number 3, what were Edith and Jack doing yesterday afternoon? Edith and Jack were having a picnic. Edith and Jack were having a picnic yesterday afternoon. What about Nancy? What was she doing yesterday afternoon? Nancy was studying. So Nancy was studying. Okay. She is not studying now. Okay, but yesterday afternoon she was studying. That was the activity happening at that time. Kim, what was she doing? What was Kim doing yesterday afternoon? Kim was taking a driver's test. Okay, so Kim was taking a driver's test. Good. And Rito? What was Rito doing yesterday afternoon? Rito was waiting at the airport. Okay, so these were activities that were happening yesterday. Okay, so that should give you an idea of how to talk about activities that maybe have finished now, but were in progress at a past time. Okay. Now to continue with this, you can go to the next page and do a speaking activity here. This is an information gap activity. So one person will stay here on page 32. The other partner will go to page 102. Okay. They're given two prompts to talk about either one person, okay, or maybe a group of people, maybe two or more people. And you're going to talk about what these people were doing, okay, on Friday night. Not now, but last Friday at night. What were they doing? What was he doing? What was she doing? Okay. Now, if you are if you're student B, you're going to be here on page 102. Student A, you can turn to page 100. So you're going to be here on page 32. Student A can turn to page 102. As you see here, it's a classic information gap. Student B, you have half the information. You know about Jules, you know about Patrick, you also know about Lorenzo and these two women here. Okay? You need to find out information about Rick and Lucy, Mijong, Shane and Ray, and Tyler and Caitlin, because you don't have that information, student B. Student A, you will also ask questions where you don't have information. So that indicates who will ask and answer. Okay. And if you're studying alone, you can study with your textbook. This will help you review the grammar that was on page 31 in the self-practice activity. Okay. So it's a good listening activity. It's a good speaking activity, and it should help you with the grammar. Also, please note, if you're studying, of course, you can use the ebook to review these activities over and over. But also in your textbook, you have a grammar review. Okay, the grammar review allows you to answer some questions and see how you do. You won't get any feedback if you do the activity in your textbook, but on the ebook, you have an excellent opportunity to practice and practice again and study for the exam. So I encourage you to do that. That concludes lecture 2. I will be back next week with your new lecture, and we can continue from there. Okay, thank you and good luck.